Welcome to Stories from the River. I'm your guest host, Hope Stocker. Welcome to the third and final episode for our Night Summit series. In this episode, our conversation turned toward a more personal peek into who Charlie is. We'll talk about first jobs, his life at home with his family, and being legacy-minded. We also took questions from the Knights gathered in attendance. We hope you've enjoyed this series as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
We're going to move on to some personal questions, and we got some really good personal questions to ask our most fearless leader here. So just as a fun question out of curiosity, what was Charlie Malouf's first job?
I've been thinking about this. I started mowing lawns at a really early age, probably like at age 9 or 10, where I would work really hard and then get like $10. I'm like, that should be worth more than that. So, I was sweating my butt off out there. So, but that's not like I mowed lawns for decades, years and years and years. And I like to call it landscaping. My wife was like, you weren't doing landscaping. You were mowing and edging, but I was sweating a lot. That wasn't really a W-2 job. Then I would say, working for someone, I think when I was 12 years old during spring break, I started working at my uncle's deli, Frisco Deli at the mall. My job was, I was like, I want to go play. I don't want to go to work. And my job was wiping the trays for 3 hours in the back of this little small space. But I don't even think I was W-2'd for that job because he would just give me, this tells you what minimum wage was at that time. I would get $10.50. So I was working for
the whole day?
Yeah, $3.50 an hour. So I'd work for 3 hours wiping these trays. I think my first W-2 job was a busboy at a barbecue restaurant. My uncle had a restaurant called Red Hot and Blue. So I think I was a busboy there for a period of time. And then I became a server at a different restaurant. So those would be some of my early jobs.
Can you imagine sitting down to dinner and Charlie was your waiter?
I didn't like to stack all the stuff on. Like, I'll go do a couple trips. I'm not spilling a whole big tray of stuff. Yeah. You used to have to work doubles. I used to do doubles a lot, and you get used to it. You get used to being on your feet and stuff.
I used to wait tables. It was fun. You meet all kinds of people.
And by the way, people who work there too. They're not just the customers, but you see some stuff in restaurants you get leftover food, like, you're going to eat that chicken tender? Like, no. Really? It's like, yeah, you see some stuff, man.
I'm sure. What are you most proud of regarding Broad River?
I'm proud of a lot with Broad River. I don't sit there and I don't know. These are really contemplative, reflective questions. Mm-hmm. So I don't often sit and get really introspective about it, but it'd be hard to look past the 2015 experience, really because of how low that we were. And a lot of people, Bill knows, Steve knows, but you probably know, but to some extent. I don't know if people know how low we were and how close we were to the edge of going away. We got thrown, and I don't mind saying this now, we got thrown into special assets. If you know what special assets is, it's like the next step before bankruptcy. They're trying to determine what they're going to do and how they're going to get whatever money they have from you. So, we were in special assets, and I would say, and I had just become president and CEO, by the way. And so I started to think, maybe I'm just a puppet, a stand-in for 6 months. I'm just here to, until the business gets shopped and goes away. And so I was like, well, if we're going to do it, let's kind of go down swinging, so to speak. I literally felt like every day I'm waking up with a gun to my head. And I have no control if the bank pulls the trigger or not. They could do it, and I can't control that. So I learned to kind of go, well, what can I control? What I can control is I can put a smile on my face every single day, because I think that's what people need to see. And we can go to work, picking up our shovel, trying to fix it, and that's what we tried to do. And so I'm just immensely proud of kind of having a contrarian belief that it's fixable. We can solve it. We know where the broken bones are, and we're going to use this test is an incredible testimony to one day talk about it. It's very much like the Stockdale Paradox. If you know Jim Stockdale, who was imprisoned at the Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam for 8 years and tortured. But And a lot of people died and didn't make it out, but he did because he never lost that resolute faith that he would one day get out and use that experience to help and tell others. And so there's a lot of things I could point to, but if you knew how close we were to the edge and how close we were to being shopped, and we like to say the vultures were circling, and that may be giving some of our friends and others a bad adjective, but the vultures were circling. They thought they had buried us, as the proverb goes. Little did they know we were seeds, and we kind of grew, and we grew a lot stronger from that.
There's no sense in wasting a hardship if you don't come out of it on the other side better and stronger than you were when you went into it.
Well said.
What do you do when you're outside of the office? You shared pictures of your boys and Kelly, and I watched them grow up through, pictures and things that Charlie shares with me, but what do you do? I know you were running.
Yeah, I still run. Yeah. Well, I had to get through some knee problems. Well, this afternoon, Drew's got a track meet, so I'm going to go see him in his track meet. Track meets are long, and you're there for 1 minute, and then you wait 45 minutes, and then the next event 1 minute. So there's a lot of standing, but I'm going to a track meet. Sunday, Friday, I like to watch Ole Miss sports, football and basketball. So my team made the Sweet 16, so I'll watch some Friday night. Sunday, Drew's birthday is tomorrow, so he turns 15 tomorrow. So he's got the middle school years, let me tell you.
The worst.
But he's got a couple dozen kids on Sunday doing a paintball party. So I am the parent chaperone on duty that afternoon. So, but I have prioritized health and wellness. So I try to work out every single day. So I'm always looking at the weather, and I love warm weather if I can be outside. So I try to structure my day around when I can find a pocket of time to kind of exercise and work out. I just think that's good for longevity. And I had some health scares and some other things that the metrics were trending in the wrong direction. So I prioritize health and wellness. And the way I have to do it, I just have to say it's I'm not going to decide if I'm feeling it or not. It's just something I have to do every day. And then I don't get to decide in the moment. So I do a lot of health and wellness. Luke, it's interesting. They just had spring break, and my boys they've had different interests, right? I did football, basketball, baseball, tennis, and getting them to go play pickleball with me or something. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. They like to skateboard or do their own things. We've done some races together, but just randomly, I made a comment, something about throwing the ball, and Luke just said he decided he wanted to start throwing the baseball. And so he's 12 years old, and so we've been throwing the baseball every day since Thursday, and he's pretty good at it, and he's getting better at it. So I like to do stuff with the kids, or as a family we'll go out to dinner sometimes, but corralling everyone and everyone's schedules. And we'll do stuff like that, or do stuff outside, or it's not. I don't know. We're not doing exotic adventures and trips. We went to Costa Rica to the rainforest. That was a fun, cool trip. We've done some fun adventure beach trips, but just do stuff with the family, do stuff with the kids. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I like to do that when I'm listening.
I find that hard to believe, right?
I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
All right, last question here. You've been a great guest. I haven't had
You've
so many
been a great
guests.
host, Hope.
Thank you. So looking back at your career so far, what would you say had the biggest impact on your success?
Mark Batterson has a quote, and this will peg to kind of what I spoke about with compounding. He's got a quote, and I think it came from Eugene Peterson, and before that maybe Friedrich Nietzsche. But it's long obedience in the same direction. And I think maybe that's grit or stick-to-itiveness. I'm not really sure, but being willing to stay the course for a long period of time. There's probably a lot of times I could have jumped out of the boat, tried to do something else. Maybe I wasn't smart enough, or maybe I was just too bullheaded to go do something else. But I've been doing this thing now at Broad River for nearly 20 years, and it's interesting. You charge so far ahead, and so hard, and I just for years and years was just such tunnel vision, and you got I don't have the same level of energy I think I had, but maybe it was an unhealthy energy, but you're going a means to an end, so to speak. But I put a lot of hours in, worked really hard for the first several years, and you kind of wake up all of a sudden, you're like, I don't know if I have to push that hard anymore. And I don't even know if that's super productive. And so I got to kind of like maybe think about it differently or prepare, others, the next generation or something. So, I think just sticking with it for a long period of time. The way I like to kind of think about it is in some regards, maybe it's Broad River or maybe my career, it feels like it's an overnight success that was 25 years in the making. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But it was just, I think, constantly trying to get better, learn, invest in myself, pick up books, learn from others, follow mentors along the way and take their best practices, and then at some point develop enough confidence to try to maybe put it into my own blender and do it a certain way. Maybe that's it. You had asked me where we are. There was a question on there about the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, the company, I used to not think about legacy at all. I didn't even understand that word. I was like, well, why does it even matter? I won't even be here. But as you get kids, as you get older, you start to think about all the generations that paved the way before you, and just that gratitude you have for your grandparents, great-grandparents, your parents, and all that they did for you to get you to where you are in your life. And, I think we're all, to an extent, standing on the shoulders of giants, or standing on the shoulders for those who, paved the way for us. And what do we want to do for our kids? We want to just kind of pave the way for them. So whether you're parenting, and the way I like to look at Broad River and leadership in this position is really about stewardship. And so while I have the time and the responsibility to steward and lead this company, which I consider an immense privilege and honor, I don't think I'm going to be here forever. I also think that might be a little bit of a selfish perspective to have. And so, Bill's not going to be here forever. We wish he would be. Steve's not going to be here forever. But we need to be kind of thinking about how we prepare and plan to leave it better than we found it. And I think if we can all have that mindset for whatever season you're in this company, that I'm in this company, can we look back and say, I left it better than I found it? Did I pass the baton and leave it well? Did I leave the next generation? Did I tell them all that I could tell them? Did I teach them all that I could teach them? Did I support them as well as I could so that they can take it and do more and better with it? And so part of that is a belief that Broad River exists for a reason and survived for a reason. And so, but that's the responsibility. Well, what are we going to do with that? Because can we impact and influence other companies? And I get a lot of joy and jazzed out of that we have made a difference in retail. We have made a difference in Charlotte, and that we are kind of that shining city on a hill, so to speak. And that's kind of how I'd like to see it. But I don't have this node that I'm going to be doing it forever. Not because I don't have lost any desire for it, but just I think that stewardship is for a season, and we should be prepared to be legacy minded and leave it better than we found it, and that we should put people in and thinking, when I interviewed Mark Batterson, he told me he's thinking in 70-year terms. When I read David Green's book, who's the founder of Hobby Lobby, he's got a business coach and he's thinking in 150-year terms. The man upstairs, God, is thinking in billions of years terms. So, but we try to be long-term minded, and so how can we kind of set it up so that others can kind of take it and grow it and do more with it? Because they will want to, and they'll want to have an exciting vision for the future. And so I think my responsibility is for the season that I have the ability, capability, and privilege to lead, can I prepare the next generation and others and empower them and to be entrepreneurial, to kind of think creatively, to think about these things that are true, but hey, we don't have all the answers. And so you want to kind of leave it better than you found it and put others in a position to succeed so that they can grow it, and they'll take it and do more with it than we can, and we'll be so immensely proud of them because it's not about us anyways.
Awesome. Building a legacy, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Malouf. Can we thank Charlie for his time today? Thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful. So I think we have just a couple of minutes to take questions from the audience. Does anybody have a question that maybe?
So I have a 13-year-old son at home.
Yeah.
And
what grade?
I'm sorry?
What grade is he in?
Eighth. So we are doing the whole IGP meetings for high school and all that fun stuff past couple weeks. He is the type of person, he is unlike my 21-year-old daughter, that he sets his mind to something and he goes all the way through with it. Doesn't change his mind, doesn't change his plan, he sticks to it. And for a 13-year-old, I mean, that's adult, that's mature to me. So he said since he was 6 years old that he was going to move to New York City. He's creating his own clothing brand, and he's going to not only create the clothing brand, but he's going to run the company. So what is the best advice as far as starting out that you could give him as far as like where to start?
Yeah, well, how awesome is that? You got this ambitious, driven son at 13 years old who's going to go move to New York City and do all these things. I think that's awesome. You know, one of the things that we do as a family is we watch a lot of Shark Tank.
Yeah, he loves that show, actually.
Can you get them into like business competitions, things of that nature? And but I think that like you want to put him in environments where he can scratch that ambitious itch, or be around mentors who can help lead him or guide him, or do apprenticeships with companies where he can kind of go learn what is it like to be in a company, what's it like to kind of do this. So I'd try to find maybe some internships or some apprenticeships, or some maybe junior achievement. What is it called? Still junior? Yeah. They've got some programs, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, where he can kind of get involved with others and just stay curious, keep asking questions, and trying a lot of different things to try to scratch that itch. And to the extent that you can kind of support that ambition.
He asks me questions all the time, and I'm like, well, from the finance part, I can tell you how to run the company, but as far as where to start, so where a lot of his high school courses that he's taking is going to be marketing and business. So I think that's going to help a lot. I just didn't know as a parent where to kind of start him off at, because I obviously don't own a company, or run one. So
so here's the thing. First of all, wherever he is today, it's going to change so much in the next 10 years. And so I don't know, other than trying new things, looking for things. You could go into ChatGPT and ask, hey, where could I start with a 13-year-old? Or as he has, I think if you get good at prompts, I think if people who can master prompts and interactions with AI, that might be a really good skill to develop and nurture that's probably not going to go away. So maybe have him do that in a safe environment. There's a app, Greenwise, I think. Is it Greenwise? Where you can kind of do some investments and track other companies for kids and parents for kids. Maybe have them do that. Maybe give them an allowance and say, hey, let's track some investments, and what are you going to invest in, and how and why, and maybe those would be a couple of ideas.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? Sarah?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What is the best book you've ever read?
Well, I really liked Win the Day by Mark Batterson, because it infected my soul in a positive way. There's so many books on habits, and it's another book on habit, but it does it from just a different perspective that really just resonated with me. I think he's just a great communicator, and how he comes up with stories. So Win the Day was one that really resonated with me. Another good one that sometimes I point to is Keith Cunningham. You might like this one, The Road Less Stupid, subtitled Advice from the Chairman of the Board. He's got this whole thing about a CFO scorecard, and some of the quotes I say, keep the lug nuts tight, and I like it because it's short chapters, and you can read it non-linearly, and so you can just pick I want this 3-page chapter, this 4-page chapter, and then he condenses every chapter, here it is on a bumper sticker, so he condenses, and he's all about thinking time and having one question you're trying to solve and how to solve for it. So from a business operations perspective, a CFO financial scorecard perspective, I think he does a really nice job. From a culture perspective, I really like Bob Chapman's book, Everybody Matters. And The Power of Moments by the Heath brothers was outstanding. So those would be a few.
Nice. Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? Anywhere? Allie Webb? Coming to us from the ATL.
I've got a specific question about Spokane. You mentioned putting in a small DC. What made you make the decision to do that on our own as opposed to hiring it out to a 3PL?
Oh, well, I think I mentioned, the question is about a DC. I think we're going to sublease a DC, Allie, initially. and not do the capital investments. And so we looked at some land off I-90 that we could go spend a ton of money building a DC like a Four Oaks. I think this is still experimental. We got to make sure this thing's going to work before we go sink, a massive amount of cash and money into a project. So I think we're going to, and we also need to kind of understand, well, how much are we going to expand? How much are we going to grow? How much to the market? So I want to be agile. And so we're going to have a distribution center, but I think it's going to be small. I think our people managing it are better than completely outsourcing it. We've done that before early on. We had our delivery company also was the 3PL. Didn't work well. They don't have the same vested interest. I really trust Tim Klaus and Cherie and that team to execute at a really high level. And also, if we're going to grow it, I think it's easier to grow it from our own people than from like completely doing the lobotomy or the brain transplant of, oh, now we're going to take out the brain and go put our own people, and that kind of invites some other variables. So we're going to do a sublease, I think, of a DC of 18 to 36 months, so that gives us a runway and keeps us agile, so that we can kind of be looking for. And the benefit is there's a lot of industrial space out there. So
Nice. Thank you, Allie. Anybody else? All right. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. This has been wonderful. I can check something off my bucket list now. Yes. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a great summer.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. To watch this episode, go to youtube.com/@storiesfromtheriver. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.